Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. In today's video, we're going to be doing a bit of a team building guide for early to mid game, sort of those first couple months of play, what you should be focusing on, what you should be avoiding, and all that sort of stuff. We're going to look into like combinations of heroes to get faction advantage to help you push, and also different heroes that you may want to build as your main hero, and there's the whole strategy behind not building too many heroes altogether. So that's pretty much going to be everything in this video, and then at the end we will go through some individual heroes that are really good options. So let's get into the video. Kicking it off, we're going to start at like when you first start your first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of play. It's going to be hard. Like you're going to pull at least 2 elite heroes in your first guaranteed pool, your first 10 pool, and past that, you'll get a few more. So it's just that really early game stage is going to be about just building teams with faction bonuses and just using what you have. You're not looking for perfect team synergy because you won't have many units. So obviously the 7-day login, you do get a Blinda. She's a solid damage option that you can put in at Elite Plus. Because you do get her at Elite Plus, she's going to be fairly decent after that 7 days, because Elite Plus probably, you may have one legendary if you've been lucky, but you're probably going to be sitting at Elite Plus with most of your heroes. The other thing you do get early game from the logins is I don't have one, but is an elite Hogan. So that very, very early game stage, Light Bearers isn't a bad option because you've already got an elite Hogan, an elite plus Belinda, and within that early few days, you should be able to have a second elite Hogan to get him to elite plus. And that is really good because Hogan, he can actually work up to Legendary Plus as a tank if you don't have any tanking options. But worst case, you can feed him off later as an elite, or once again, you can build him up to Legendary Plus and feed him later on. If you're not sure about the ascending thing and you're still really early, I do have a guide for that. I'll link it in the description, talking about ascending and what not to feed to what and stuff like that. But moving on from that, it's pretty much just make do with what you have. So from those two, you're going to have 2 light bearers already. If you have 3 of another faction, you can throw them in, or if you have more light bearers, you can test them out. But really, those are the only 2 guaranteed units that you will have in those really early days, in like by the end of the first week. So they're not a bad option to get you started. But besides that, like I said, make do with what you have and just keep pushing until you start getting some more summons, and then you'll be able to start forming a team. The next thing I want to look at is ascending. So ascending is a bit involved when we look at early game team building. What I'll do is I'll go to my hero list, and what I often see is a bunch of accounts where people have made sort of the first 10 heroes in their list are all legendary. Now that is something that I think you want to try and avoid. What I like to do is focus on one hero of each faction. This way, you're putting all your resources into them, and then you'll be able to get them up to Mythic, Mythic Plus, Ascended, and so on and so forth. So the thing you really want to do is not ascend a hero to Legendary unless you're going to be able to get it to Legendary Plus. That's what I like to do personally. Like I said, if you've got a hero that you just really love, you just want to make them legendary, and you have fun making them legendary, that's up to you. I'm talking about, trying to avoid having wasteful heroes in your box. So what you want to do is you want to have a main carry hero, like your main damage dealer that's going to carry you all the way. For most people, that's going to be Shamira. So, really solid option. The reason Shamira is great is she's farmable from the Labyrinth store. So even if I only have, for instance, on this account, I only have her at Elite Plus, I don't have any other copies. If I was going for her from the Labyrinth store, I'd be happy to make her legendary right now because I know eventually I will get those copies to make her Legendary Plus. But on this account, Sirius is my next main man. He's the one I'm building because I've got my Gwyneth as my main carry damage dealer. So Sirius is the one I'm building from the Labyrinth store. So as you can see, I've only got him at Legendary and one other copy, but because I'm buying him from the Labyrinth store, which I think I'm close to another copy, that is the reason I put him to Legendary. I know I'm going to build him. Besides that, this account I have been saving for summons. So normally at this stage on an account, all I've bought is the progress rewards on this one. So you'd probably have more heroes than what I have at the moment. But what I am doing on this account is I will probably, after my summon session, unless I pull 4 copies of a decent Mauler, I'm just going to build Savius. The reason I'd build Savius or another rare heroes, so the ones that fall into the legendary tier, which are these guys here, is because eventually you can use them to feed to another hero to get them to Mythic which is never a bad thing. So you can build them willy-nilly. You know you're going to get the copies to get them to Legendary Plus. It doesn't matter. So he's probably the one I'll go for here. Like I said, in Wilders, all my Wilder investment, even though Arden's a great hero, he's just going to stay at Elite Plus because he works there. All my investment is going to go into Savius because he is my next main unit. He's my tank. And I'll talk about more about building a tank after we go through this avoiding ascension part. Over here, I'll probably end up building, unless I pull a couple copies of Nara here, because she's the only one. I'm not building Shamira on this account. Unless I pull a couple copies of Nara, I'm just going to build up a Sylvina, because Sylvina is really nice against Soren, so I'll get some use out of her. And then that's pretty much what I'm doing. So Lightbearers, only Gwyneth. Wilders, only Savius. And then these two, I'll just build something to make it work. And eventually, I'll probably have to build another legendary hero, which I'll probably do over here in Graveborn because I've got the extra fodder. And that will get me my 5 heroes to be able to increase my Resonating Crystal. But that's a bit more advanced. Just try and avoid making a bunch of legendaries unless you have those extra 2 copies to make them Legendary Plus. That's the basics in early to mid game team building. Then from there on, what we want to look at is sort of the team composition type thing. So like I said, what you're going to have is your main damage dealer. Now, with your main damage dealer, it doesn't matter what faction it is, doesn't matter who it is. The good thing about them, especially if you're going with, we'll go for a more stable build, which would be a Shamira. So Shamira, when you build them as your main damage dealer, what you're going to be doing is leveling this hero to max level, and then, like I said, this is up to you. This is the best way I've found to progress, and the most useful way I've done it is make that main damage dealer a much higher level than all your heroes. So you keep leveling them until it says you can't level them anymore unless the rest of your team is at a certain level. So you pump them all the way up. Once you need to level your other heroes, then you level them, and then once you've got enough heroes at that requirement, you can then keep leveling that main hero. So Shamira, for a lot of people, will be the go-to. I know not everyone, but just a generic example is a good example. And because you're leveling that hero above everyone else, it just basically means that they can essentially be a tank on your team, because they'll have more defense, more HP. They'll just be tankier in general. So that's going to be one of your tank position heroes. The next thing I'd like to look at is having a second tank hero. And this is basically your second front row hero. So like I said before, Hogan is always a solid option because he's fairly easy to build. You get a free elite copy of him. And then, yeah, you can basically just build him from there. You can get him to Legendary Plus. It's not a waste because eventually you'll be able to use him at Legendary Plus to make another hero Mythic. So early game, not a bad option. That also gives you the option if your carry unit, for instance, Shamira, if you know you need to bide some time, you need to put her in the back row, you want to have a decent second tank to put them behind so that they can avoid some damage and stuff like that. Then, once you've got your main hero and your other tank, another great option for the tank here is a Brutus, just because he does have the invincibility. So this is Brutus here. Just because he can avoid damage completely for 4 seconds, and it just makes him effectively a decent tank. Then we look at the back row. So the back row is where you want to try and build a faction bonus and also try and build some support heroes that don't need to be highly ascended to function. So when we look at Lightbearers, they have some really good options. You've got things like Rosaline, Rowan. Once again, you'll have to get lucky and actually pull these guys. And then besides that, you've got a couple other options, but those are the 2 main Lightbearers that work. Gwyneth kind of actually does work as a support with her stun. Oh yeah, there you go. There's your other option. Forks is another great one. He's got a good banish CC, which makes it 5v4 for the start of the match. Really, really nice. Those are the kind of things you can look at building in a Lightbearer's back row for support. Some other things you can consider is Wilders. So Wilders are really nice support because you have things like, where is he? I think I've got one built here. Where is he? Come on. Arden. There he is. So Arden's amazing. He gets better. I think it's at level 81 is when I would start using him. Once this skill here, if we go to heroes and we go to Arden, where is he? Arden, thank you. So this skill here, which is his entangling roots, once you get it to unlock that it will entangle 2 enemies, this is when he starts getting good at level 141, I think it is, where he unlocks yeah, there it is, 141. He entangles 3 enemies. That's when he becomes insane, but still very decent when he's entangling 2 enemies. It's just a really good CC, and that's what you want from your back row. So when we look at that team composition, so you pretty much, your back row would be looking like something like Arden, and then it depends on what you've pulled. You've got things like Tassie, who is amazing. You've also got, where is it? You've got things like Namora, and then you also have Leica. So if we look at Leica, where is Leica? I don't actually have her on this account, and I'd really like to pull her because she has good synergy with my team. But Leica is another great option. So you can really build those 2 cores. You can build a Light Bearers and Wilders in early game when CC is a big importance. However, if you are using a Chimera and you've been lucky enough to pull a Nara, she is a good option in your team as well, because once again, she's one of those heroes. She can work at elite, and she basically just locks out an enemy for a long time. The other thing you can do, I did cover a lot of these heroes in a video I talked about free-to-play heroes. I'll link that in the description as well if you want to hear more about these heroes. But another good one for the Graveborn is Pharrell, is basically because he terrifies 2 enemies for 3 seconds, and it skills up to be 3 enemies for 3 seconds. He's sort of like an Arden. He actually really shines late game. So if you get this guy, he's really good late game, but he's another okay option to use early game in a team in the back row. And that's pretty much it. So when we look at these legendary tier heroes, which are the ones you summon as rares, the ones that are worth using early game, in my opinion, are Hogan. Like I said, he's he can just be a really decent beefy tank. He's got some good CC, and then he's also got the extra health, so he can tank pretty well. A lot of people have been telling me Muriel is a great damage dealer if you're lacking a damage dealer that you want to build. Savius is the only one here from the Maulers that I'd go and build. He's an amazing damage dealer, good self-sustain. Doesn't really shine until after about 121, but still a good option. Next up, over at Wilders, we have Arden. Like I said, he's the only one I'd build there. But these are those heroes that, you know, if you need to make legendary heroes to increase your level cap, you can throw them up and you're pretty good. And then over in the Graveborn, Verdan is a decent option. He's got good damage, good self-healing and all that. But the other good option for me is Sylvina. Sometimes it helps because she can snipe the back row, she can distract your enemy team, and also she's amazing for Soren. If you play her on manual, the Soren guild boss, she can turn him around and basically you can avoid damage by using her. So those are the main legendary tier heroes, and like I said, you've got all those Wilder and Lightbearer options that you can use from the ascended tier heroes. The other thing here is if you get lucky enough to pull a copy of Athalia or the Twins. Twins are good early game. Once you get a bit mid game, they fall off at elite just because one of them's melee and they really just get burnt. But Athalia is a great option because she has that 8-second CC similar to Nara. This guy, Orthros, is also really nice, and the great thing about all these Celestial heroes is they can substitute for any faction. So if you get lucky enough to pull these guys, try them in your team as well, put them in the back row, they can be really nice as well. Mahira is definitely just one of the best heroes to use at elite in the game. If you get lucky enough to pull her, definitely test her in your team. She's amazing. But those are the main heroes you're going to look at. So just a bit of a recap on the team building. So what you want to do is you don't want to make heroes legendary unless you have enough copies to make them legendary plus. If you need to make heroes legendary to keep increasing levels, then I'd recommend going with some of the rare heroes that you summon, the legendary tier heroes, because then you can eventually use them to feed to other heroes. The next thing we're going to look at is you want to make one main damage dealer, another tank to sort of help you out, and then put some good CC or sustain or just annoying heroes in the back row that basically can work at lower ascension tiers because you're not going to be able to beef everyone up at the same time. So, you know, put your Rowans, your Rosalines, your Naras, your Ardens, all those things in the back row. They can help your team as long as they don't get hit. So that's what you want to do in the back row for those early game team buildings. Very early game, like first week or so, look at Lightbearers. They're not bad unless it's just basically piecing together a team with what you do have. And then, yeah, pretty much just go from there. So that's pretty much all the tips I can really think of at the moment for the team building. Yeah, the big thing is trying to get those Wilders, trying to get those Lightbearers. And like I said, there are a few options from the Graveborn, but just avoid making 10 legendary heroes, because that is the biggest mistake I do see on new players when they link me their accounts and I see, 10 to 15 legendary heroes and no mythic heroes. It's just, the ascension levels do help, and having that one main damage dealer really does make a difference. So that is going to be it for this video, guys. Let me know if there's any other tips you guys have. I can always do another video follow-up on this one. But those are my main tips for team building early to mid game. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.